All right. Ready to dive into a world where 2D meets 3D
Yeah,
in the most ingenious way.
absolutely.
We're talking isometric video games.
Right.
A style that took the gaming world by storm.
It really did.
And, believe it or not, is making a huge comeback.
Definitely.
Ever wonder how developers created the illusion of depth on those old square pixel screens?
It's pretty amazing.
You're in for a treat.
It's fascinating how a simple perspective choice called isometric projection totally revolutionized gaming. Back in the 8-bit era, hardware was incredibly limited.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine trying to create a 3D world with only a handful of colors and chunky pixels.
I can't even imagine.
Isometric projection was the workaround.
So clever.
Yeah.
Okay, so picture this.
Okay.
You're playing a game,
Yeah.
and suddenly the world shifts to this unique angle.
Okay.
It's like looking at a cube from the corner,
Right.
giving you this pseudo 3D view.
Exactly.
That's the magic of the 120-degree angle. It tricks your brain into seeing depth where there is none.
Yeah, and it's not just about aesthetics. That shift in perspective had a huge impact on gameplay.
Really?
Oh yeah, take Saxon.
Okay.
One of the early arcade games to use this technique.
Huh.
Suddenly, you weren't just moving left or right, you were navigating a 3D space,
Wow.
dodging obstacles from a whole new angle.
It's amazing how groundbreaking that was. And you know me, I love a good blast from the past. Remember those classic arcade games like Q*bert and Marble Madness?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They were some of the first to really embrace this isometric perspective,
Yeah.
proving it wasn't just a gimmick.
Yeah.
It was a whole new way to experience games.
It really was.
So cool.
But it was Night Lore in 1984 that really changed the game.
Really?
This was a time when most games used simple, solid colors.
Right.
But Night Lore, developed for the ZX Spectrum, a machine known for its limitations,
Yeah.
used a mostly monochrome palette to create stunning detail and atmosphere.
You're telling me it was revolutionary.
Oh, yeah?
The developers created this engine called the Filmation engine,
Right.
and what they were able to achieve with it was incredible.
It's amazing.
But here's where it gets really interesting. You might be surprised to learn that they achieved that detailed look
Okay.
using a technique called image masking.
Image masking was groundbreaking. It's
Yeah.
like creating stencils to give the illusion of depth.
Wow.
Characters could walk behind objects, adding a level of realism never seen before in games.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was mind-blowing for the time. And the impact was huge. Other developers saw what Night Lore achieved
Yeah.
and wanted to capture that same magic.
It's true. The Night Lore clones phenomenon is a testament to that.
Wow.
Developers were suddenly inspired to explore the possibilities of isometric projection.
And thank goodness they did.
Yeah.
Who knows what our gaming libraries would look like without it. Speaking of amazing games, let's talk about the arrival of 16-bit machines and how they ushered in a golden age for isometric games.
Oh, yeah.
Those 16-bit machines, they were a game changer.
Yeah.
More power, more colors.
Right.
It was like a whole new world of possibilities opened up for developers.
Totally.
And what better way to showcase that power than with sprawling, detailed worlds,
It's exactly.
viewed from that iconic isometric angle?
It's true. Think about a game like Populous, released in 1989.
Oh, yeah. Popular.
Here you were not just controlling a character,
Wow.
but like a godlike being,
Whoa.
shaping the very landscape, influencing populations,
Wow.
all from this commanding isometric perspective.
It must have been mind-blowing for players back then
Oh, yeah?
to have that much control and detail in a game world.
Yeah. And speaking of strategy games,
Okay.
we can't forget about the impact of Bullfrog software.
Right. Bullfrog.
They were pioneers, creating some of the most iconic isometric games of all time.
What were some of their big ones?
Powermonger, Theme Park, Populous to Second.
Classics, everyone.
These were games that captivated players with their depth and charm.
You know, I was a huge fan of Syndicate back in the day.
Syndicate was awesome.
It came out in 1993,
Right.
and I remember being blown away by the visuals, the cyberpunk setting, the strategic depth.
Mm-hmm.
It was groundbreaking.
It really was. It pushed the boundaries of what isometric games could be, not just visually,
Right.
but also in terms of gameplay. You were controlling a squad of cyborgs,
Oh, yeah.
battling for control in this gritty, futuristic world.
So cool.
It was intense, and it's fascinating how those limitations, working within that pseudo 3D space,
Yeah.
forced developers to get so creative.
Yeah.
To, like, squeeze every ounce of detail and atmosphere out of their games. But then
Okay.
PC gaming took a giant leap forward with pre-rendered graphics.
Yeah, rendered graphics.
And isometric games were forever changed.
Oh, so...
Pre-rendering was a game changer. See, back then, not everyone had powerful PCs with dedicated graphics cards.
Right.
So how do you create stunning, detailed visuals without relying on real-time 3D rendering?
Good question.
That's where pre-rendering came in.
And interesting. So it's like they're kind of...
It's like building a movie set.
Yeah.
You create those 3D environments beforehand.
Right.
And then, instead of having the computer render everything in real time, you display these pre-rendered images
clever.
from that clever isometric angle.
And that's how they got those amazing visuals.
The results were incredible. Games like Diablo, released in 1996,
Diablo.
showcase the power of this technique.
Diablo was a phenomenon. That dark, gothic atmosphere,
Yeah.
the addictive hack-and-slash gameplay, and the world. It felt so vast and immersive.
It did.
All thanks to that isometric perspective combined with pre-rendered graphics.
It really set a new standard for action RPGs. And Diablo wasn't alone.
What other games use this style?
Oh, man, tons. Desperado, Wanted Dead or Alive, Roller Coaster Tycoon, Commandos 2, Men of Courage, the list goes on. Even iconic RPGs like Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, Shadowrun, Equinox, Final Fantasy Tactics, and the first 2 Fallout games, all of them use that signature isometric view to create memorable gaming experiences.
You know, it's mind-boggling to think that a game as complex and detailed as Roller Coaster Tycoon was largely developed by a single person using assembly link.
I know.
Talk about dedication.
It's crazy. It's a testament to the creativity and ingenuity of those developers.
Yeah.
And we can't forget about Nox.
Right.
It might not be as well known as some of the others, but it was a fantastic isometric RPG that deserves more recognition. But as you mentioned earlier, the gaming landscape was evolving yet again.
Right. Technology never stands still, does it?
Nope.
And for isometric games, a new era was about to begin. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Playing like 1 minute pre-rendered graphics are the future, and then suddenly...
Then they're old news.
Exactly. It happens that fast.
That's technology for you, always moving forward. And isometric games, they had to adapt, right?
Oh, yeah. To survive.
Exactly. Dedicated 3D graphics cards were becoming more and more common, and 3D wasn't just a possibility anymore. It was just what people expected.
Totally.
Games like Syndicate Wars, you know, the sequel to the isometric classic,
Oh, yeah. Syndicate Wars.
it really showcased this evolution.
In what way?
Well, it kept that classic isometric viewpoint that everyone loved, but instead of those pre-rendered backgrounds,
Yeah.
it used real-time 3D rendering.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So cool. Syndicate Wars. What a game.
Yeah.
Bridging that gap,
Yeah.
you know, between the classic and the brand new.
It was a smart move, and that's what I love about video games, that push and pull between old and new, nostalgia and innovation.
Totally. Even on less powerful hardware, like the Game Boy Advance.
Oh, yeah. Game Boy Advance.
Isometric games, they found a way to thrive.
They found a way. The Game Boy Advance, it might not have had the power of a PC,
Right.
but it proved that the isometric perspective could still deliver, you know?
You're sure. Playing Max Payne on the Game Boy Advance, that was amazing. Changed everything. And who can forget Tony Hawk?
Tony Hawk, come on!
Those games were huge. That isometric view, perfect for pulling off those crazy skateboarding tricks.
It's true. It makes you wonder, though.
What's that?
What is it about these games that still pulls us in after all these years?
That's a great question. I think it's a bunch of things. Nostalgia, for sure.
Right.
If you grew up playing Diablo and Syndicate,
Diablo.
you have this fondness for it, that isometric look.
For sure.
But it's more than that, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. There's something so satisfying about exploring these worlds from that angle.
Right. And they're so well crafted, so detailed.
It's like you're getting a dollhouse view of this huge living world.
I love that, a dollhouse view.
Yes. And because you see more, you know? The world feels bigger, more immersive.
That's so true. And the way they use perspective, isometric games, to create depth.
Right.
Scale, it's still so impressive, even today.
Totally agree.
There's just this timeless quality to it.
It never gets old, like a good book.
Exactly. So the next time you're playing your favorite isometric game, really take a moment, you know, to appreciate the creativity and everything that went into creating it.
It's amazing.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of isometric video games. Thanks for joining us on this journey.